It's just a huge honor for me today to be podcast interviewing Kevin Sauer, Vice President of Business Development. This is going to be a real business development of the CDIgroup.com. The CDIgroup.com. This is going to be a real treat for you. This guy's bio is mind-blowing. Kevin Sauer is an executive that has worked in the dental industry for the past 13 years. Kevin started with Pacific Dental Services, PDS, 13 years, running, again, a single practice. During his 8 years at PDS, Kevin managed multiple practices before starting from scratch the professional recruit department, which was responsible for recruiting all clinical positions, most notably dentists. During his tenure with PDS, Kevin and his team developed PDS grow from a regional DSO to one of the largest DSOs in the country. And we've had their founder on the show, Stephen Thorne. After his time with PDS, Kevin moved to Denver to work with Birner Dental Management Services, a regional DSO with approximately 65 offices. At Birner Dental, Kevin oversaw talent acquisition and organizational development. After 2 years with Birner Dental, Kevin moved to Tampa to become Coast Dental's Vice President of Clinical Talent Acquisitions and Development. After a year, he was promoted to Vice President of Operations, where he was responsible for operations, clinical talent acquisitions, and credentialing. Coast Dental has approximately 170 offices throughout 5 states. In 2016, Kevin and his family moved back to Lone Tree, Colorado, where he joined the CDI Group to become their Vice President of Business Development. The CDI Group is the premier leader in their space, and they partner with DSOs to create and administer white-label, custom-made, proprietary in-house discount plans for DSOs across the countries. Some of their partners include Pacific Dental Services, Heartland Dental Services, Smile Brands, Great Expressions, Blackford Dental Management, Gentle Dental of New England, Dynamic Dental Partners, MB2, First Choice Dental, and many more. The CDI Group also administers discount plans for private practice as well. Kevin received his BS, Bachelor of Science in Marketing, and his Master's in Leadership and Organizational Development from Azusa Pacific University. Kevin also attended my Dental One Day MBA. Throughout his career in dental, he and his teams have hired thousands of dentists, led many key initiatives at several DSOs, and has led operational oversight of hundreds of practices. If you're looking to increase your cash patient count and retention, or would like to hear more about the CDI Group and the success they had with DSOs and practice across the country, please reach out to Kevin. What would they do? They just go to the CDIgroup.com, or should they email you? Or?
Yeah, I'd say they can do that, or email me.
What's your email?
Kevin.Sauer, S-A-U-E-R, at thecdigroup.com.
And a big shout out to Kimberly Sauer, who was my classmate in 1987. I think she's been in the Southern California in the military for 30 years, and just an amazing dentist. But my God, I love getting somebody to talk about DSOs on the show, because that's a big new thing. I mean, they didn't, everybody's always talking about DSOs. A lot of people always say things like, do you think, when I was little, I'm 55, when I was 25, all the pharmacists owned their own business. And then they all got wrapped up by Walgreens and CVC. So my question is, you worked for 3 of these DSOs. You know this space as well as anyone. Do you think in 20 years, all the dental students listening to you right now will be working at McDonald's?
Do I think all? No. No, I don't think all dental consolidate to DSOs, but I think that, the past 10 years, 15, 20 years have shown that it's consolidating, and it's still continuing to increase. I don't expect private practices to purely go away. If DSOs represent roughly, 20% of the 15 to 20% of the market right now, I don't see 20 years from now going to 90 to 100%.
Okay, I'm going to hold you to your feet, and I'm going to call you back in a decade. It's 2017. Let's go all the way out to 2027. We'll wind it out to 2030. You're supposed to never make predictions, so I'm advising you not to answer my question. In 2030, sure, what percent will work for DSOs? 2030,
I'd say 35%.
So a third, one in 3. So right now, it's probably 1 in 5, and in 10 years, you think it'll be 1 in 3.
I think so.
Okay, but let me ask you one question, because this is Dentistry Uncensored. If, when Snapchat said they wanted to go public, God, Wall Street gobbled it up. Facebook, Snapchat. You look at the stocks of Amazon and Amazon basically hasn't had any earnings and their stock just keeps going up. Another one, Google, Facebook, all these companies go public. If 1/3 of dentistry is going to be working for a DSO, you'd think Wall Street would be taking all these companies' IPOs and they'd all be exploding, and every day DentalTown.com would have like a chart stock of how all the dental stocks are doing. How come they're not publicly traded?
It's a good question. Obviously, I don't know. It's just my opinion. There's a couple out there in the past that have tried it. Taking it public and then taking it private again. Obviously a lot of these guys, a lot of the CEOs, a lot of leaders, and still the private DSOs like being private. They don't want to open up everything to the outside. There's one that I know of, one DSO right now that's publicly traded. I know a lot of other DSOs are following that one, and that one seems to go up and down. But
it's publicly traded, but not on the New York Stock Exchange and not on NASDAQ.
No, it was. It's no longer. It's been relegated, I would say, to a lesser trading post. But a lot of them are looking that way. I guess I'm kind of talking in circles right now because I don't have a really great reason as to why. I do know that. Well, I know this. I listened to a podcast that you had, within the past couple of months, and there was a CEO from a large DSO, and he talked about, and I won't say it by name, but he talked about how they don't necessarily like being the leader in a lot of the areas, or I guess first to market in whatever it's technology or it's ownership or maybe it's this space. Maybe they're looking for one of the biggies, a PDS, a Heartland, an Aspen, Smile Brands, Great Expressions, whoever those may be, for them to test it, and then others will follow suit.
Well, this is Dentistry Uncensored. I'm going to ask you this question, and I hope I don't get you fired or thrown under a bus, but a lot of these, about 25% of these podcast listeners are still in dental school, or maybe they got out of dental school and they're working for just an associate job in the private sector, and they're thinking about working for a DSO. Are there any you would recommend, any you wouldn't recommend, any that you'd recommend more than others?
That's a real loaded question.
I'm trying to get a bullseye painted on the back.
I know, I appreciate that. Considering I've worked for some, and then in what I do now, we are partners with a lot of them.
What my goal is to throw you under the bus and increase my ratings. So
there you go. There you go. And I think I can help that. Unfortunately, I don't know that I'm going to do that. Yeah, the long and the short is yes. Without me giving you specifics, who to or who not to, I would. First of all, I definitely recommend all younger dentists, new grads, coming out of school or having practiced for a year or two, whatever. Even experienced dentists look at DSOs, but when you're looking at DSOs, there are specific questions that I would look towards or ask before I would decide that I want to work there or not. And I think if you ask the right questions and you put yourself in the right situation, I think you can see which DSOs are good, which ones are thriving, which ones you may have a higher chance of being more successful with, and those that you might want to avoid.
And what would some of those right questions be?
So there's a ton. How many dentists? Some of them aren't going to be mind-blowing. So a lot of your dentists or students already know, and some might be new to them. But how many dentists have there been in that practice in the last 1, 2, 3 years? How many dental assistants do they get to work with? Because it's not. A lot of them will say, 2, but it might be 1. You might have to hit a threshold before you get that second dental assistant. What is the payer mix in that practice? Is it HMO, PPO, fee-for-service? Is it Medicaid in California? Is it Denti-Cal? Not that there's anything wrong with Medicaid, but some groups I see that is their strategy, that they want to tackle the Medicaid market, and they may do that very well. Other groups might have fallen into that recently because they're doing other things not necessarily very well, so they're kind of grasping at straws as to how to increase their patient flow, so they might open up the gates to Medicaid, but it's not necessarily a Medicaid model per se. So I'd want to know, if it is Medicaid, when did you start accepting it? Because if it's more recent than not, that might be kind of a telltale sign. The labs, the supplies, obviously you're going to see the easy things to see is their technology, is there a lack of technology? But if there's technology, that can be good, but know that you have to use that technology. If a DSO or a group has that technology in the practice, they want you to use it. If you have any problems with that or don't think that's the right restoration, a lot of the time, then it might not work out. And a lot of the DSOs that have that technology that I'm talking about, whether it's scanners, whether it's CAD CAM, whatever it may be, they're pretty upfront and honest on the way in as to what their clinical philosophy is. You know, what does the schedule look like? If I was a student, I would never go work in a practice if I didn't get a glimpse of what the schedule looks like, or if I didn't get to go shadow in that practice. Where I used to work, we used to challenge students to come in, or even younger dentists, whoever, whether they're more experienced or lesser experienced, we'd want them to come in. We'd want them to spend time with the doctor that he or she may be working with. If they were going to be solo in a practice, we'd want them to spend time in that practice before working, so they have a pretty good indicator of what they're getting involved in. So the more transparent, the better. There are some DSOs out there that don't want to do that, and that's a pretty big red flag if they don't want you to come in and allow you to spend time shadowing that practice.
Okay, I want to tell you what I hear on the street that just really, really upsets them. Number one is labs. Some of them, they have to use one lab, and they don't like the lab, and it really gets on there. Like, I'm doing my job, they're not doing their job. So if you have to use one lab, that might be a deal breaker. Number two, they're always told alone that this contract is non-negotiable. Like, look, come on, dude, we have a gazillion offices. This is our boilerplate. Take it or leave it. Is that true? Take it or leave it? Or is it negotiable? Because on the same breath of them saying take it or leave it, you know these companies are all paying recruiters like you used to be big bucks to go find them employee dentist. So if it's so non-negotiable, then why are they paying headhunters to go find them dentists?
So I'll answer the first part of the question first. The labs and the contract, usually those go hand in hand. To be honest, I haven't worked for it. There are DSOs that want to consolidate it down to one lab. Of the 3 DSOs that you mentioned that I worked in the beginning, part of why you join a group is to lower your costs, and so by consolidating labs, obviously that's going to do it. But I've never worked for a DSO that limited it to one lab. PDS, obviously, they use CAD CAM, they use Sauer, so they want their clinical philosophy from their owner doctors is mostly that of CAD CAM. But even if you wanted to go use a lab, all the DSOs I've worked for, you had multiple choices. You didn't have whatever lab you wanted, but yeah, that is part of it. But that coincides with the contract talk too. So to answer your specific question, I've worked for a group before that the contract was the contract. Either you want this, or yay or nay. We're not going to. What might have a little wiggle room for negotiation is the daily comp, that daily guarantee, and that depends on the market. If you want to go be a dentist in Orange County, Laguna Beach, San Francisco, you're not going to have as much flexibility than if you want to go be a dentist in Bakersfield, California. But then I've worked for other groups where I think that's probably not the norm, where it's a boilerplate contract and there's no room for negotiation. I've worked for other groups where they do allow for some negotiation. And the lab sometimes is a part of that because, that's another thing to look out for. How are they going to pay you? Are you going to be paying lab fees? Are you not going to pay lab fees? If you're going to pay lab fees, I don't really care where you go get your work done. You can go do that if you're going to pay your lab fees. But that's part of what you need to look out for too if you're a student or anyone looking to join a DSO. Are they paying you on collections? Are they paying you on production? Are they paying you on adjusted production? What is the guarantee? How long does it last? Is there a daily draw that after the guarantee goes away, if you're not at a certain production number, then you have to start almost paying them back? So there's a lot of things to look for. Should
they have a lawyer look at the contract before they sign it?
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. And I recommend a lawyer that you find on DentalTown that only does dental. Because so many of these young kids, they think they're doing the right thing because, they go to their church, they talk to their pastor. Pastor, do you know a good, moral, ethical lawyer? And they go, oh, yeah, Freddie. He's been a member for 20 years. Yeah, Freddie's never done a dental contract. And that's where they find their dental attorney and their dental CPA at church, which sounds perfect, but I'd rather go to an eye doctor who only does eyes than to a foot doctor who's going to do his first eyeball on me. But when you started on the right questions, the first one you said real fast, you said how many doctors, 1, 2, or 3? Did that mean how many doctors have stayed there 1, 2, or 3 years?
How many doctors have there been in that? If you're a GP, how many GPs have there been in the last 1, 2, or 3 years?
In that one office?
In that one office, correct. If you're walking into a group and you're the third GP, and it's October, and you're the third GP since January, that's going to open up a lot more questions, and they need to be able to provide pretty good answers as to why. What's the new patient count? Is it dwindling? I mean, what the doctor coming in? What kind of work was he or she doing? What is the reason that last doctor was leaving? Now, there are great dentists out there. There are dentists who are not as great. However you want to define that, whether it's clinical skills, whether it's case acceptance, patient communication connection, whatever that is. So it's not necessarily that a dentist coming in replacing another dentist is not a bad thing. And you can be walking in as a new dentist into an environment where there's a lot of opportunity, there's a lot of patients, new patients and continuing care patients, and the last dentist just wasn't able to get patients to say yes. If his or her essentially production numbers were low, that's not necessarily an indicator that your production is going to be low too. But sometimes that's part of the conversation, and it may be. Quickly, I want to go back to, when you said the attorney, I can't, finding someone who focuses on dental, I can't stress that enough too, because at the end of the job, I'm not a clinician, but from my standpoint where I used to work with clinicians in negotiating contracts, from the DSO standpoint, at the end of the day, we all love attorneys, but their jobs are to find things. Even the most quote unquote perfect contract, if you present that to an attorney, doesn't matter what the contract is, they're going to find a way to mark it up, to read it all up. So someone has experience and knows what to look for, knows how to, what questions to ask the DSO back. I can't agree with you enough, because if you go to someone who specializes in, litigation, by people that have been in car accidents, they're going to find things. But at some point, I've been in a lot of negotiations where you're kind of just spinning your wheels around things that really don't matter. So I agree with everything.
Yeah, I've had the best attorney for 30 years in Phoenix, Arizona, just an amazing attorney. And 90% of the time he says, the best person for this specific deal would be this lady in Scottsdale.
Yeah.
And I mean, he only and I always say to him, Ray, I feel bad, man. I always try, and he goes, no, I love the referrals. All these other attorneys that I'm referring to you, they remember that and they refer back. But it's just as specialized as medicine. Do you have a favorite dentist DSO contract attorney that you could email me his name and I'll bring him on the show? Who shows you how to red ink up a contract?
Off the top of my head, no, I don't, because as DSOs, we generally weren't. If I told a dentist, hey, go use this attorney, that dentist is not going to use that attorney, because he's going to think I'm representing the DSO and he's not going to go.
But if you worked with any really good ones, and email me the name Howard at DentalTown.com, because it's a common question. I get a lot of emails every day. Ryan, how many emails do I get a day?
It's like 100, at least, like 200 emails.
Yeah, it's 100 or 200 a day.
Okay.
And I love it. I mean, I do. I love answering, but it's a common question. So if you have a question, Howard at DentalTown.com. If you're a lawyer out there listening, and by the way, everybody makes fun of lawyers until you need a really, really good one. And sure. I met my attorney 30 years ago when I really, some company was really being unscrupulous, and I was young and scared, and this guy crushed him. And so everybody doesn't want attorneys until they really, really need one. But the reason I called you and you didn't call me is the reason I want you on the show is this. You go see a dentist. Oh, one last question before I get to the reason I called you. One last question. When you look at all these DSO successes, does demographics matter? Do you see DSOs that go to rural do better than DSOs that go to downtown Denver and LA? Do demographics matter? I mean, this girl watches movies that says, build it and they'll come. I mean, you could build a baseball stadium in the middle of a cornfield and be, in the major leagues. So do demographics matter in your opinion?
In my opinion, yes. Now, I think a DSO can be successful, however you want to define successful, it's all relative. But I think a DSO can be successful in just about every market. However, I mean, if I was starting a DSO today, I wouldn't go to downtown San Diego, downtown Denver, downtown New York City. Yeah, and it's kind of it's a challenge sometimes because a lot of the more rural locations and a lot of these DSOs just kill it. They do well, and they do well because there's not a lot of other dentists there. I used to travel the country, and I'd go to dental schools. And, when I was years ago when I was with PDS, I'd travel about 30, 35 dental schools a year. And I'd talk to the students, and, I would say, I would get the question, where are the good markets? Where should we go? And I'd say, you want to stay away, as an example. I'd say you probably don't want to go to, California. You might want to look at other places. You might want to look at Georgia. You might want to look at, Nebraska, other parts of Colorado, whatever that looks like. Or if you go to California, you probably want to go to Hesperia, Victorville, the High Desert, Lancaster, Bakersfield, Sacramento, Fresno. And I would say, unless there's a specific reason, unless you're from there, you have a boyfriend, girlfriend, spouse from there, everyone wants to go to LA, everyone wants to go to Miami, everyone wants to go to San Francisco, New York. So I do think demographics play a factor, but in the rural areas generally do really well. The biggest challenge is finding that doctor who not only wants to go to that rural area, but wants to stay in that rural area. And coming back to the contract negotiation, those are the times when there's a lot more leverage for you to negotiate, whether it's a higher daily guarantee, whether it's a higher percentage, whether it's a longer guarantee. The more rural area, the better you're going to be oftentimes. A young dentist coming out of school and going to Orange County, going to San Diego County, you can find a job maybe, but you're probably not going to make a whole lot of money.
And when you were in California, you've been with 3 companies, California, Colorado, Tampa. Where were you in Colorado? In California, what city?
We're based out of Irvine. Orange County.
So that's basically LA.
If you're from California, you don't think so. Orange County and
LA. When I
grew
up in Wichita, Kansas, when I was taught geography, California had 3 cities: San Diego, LA, and San Fran. Yeah. And then you go the rest of your life and you don't even meet anybody from those 3. The other one that's very confusing is there's no such thing as New York City. Just quit saying the word. You'll say, "Are you from New York City?" "No, I'm from Manhattan." "No, I'm from the Bronx." "No, I'm from Queens." "Is there a New York City?" And they just look at you like, basically, there's only New York City if you're standing in Kansas.
That's true. So everyone wants to go to Manhattan. That's where everyone wants to practice dentistry.
Yeah.
Just like everyone wants to practice in San Francisco, and you can go and you can make $300 a day.
And if you meet a dentist in Manhattan and say, "Do you practice in New York City?" he says, "No, I practice in Manhattan." So, but anyway, you said you shouldn't go to San Diego, and I agree. Even the Chargers left San Diego. So my next question was, in your 3 markets, in Colorado and Tampa Bay, are you more a Broncos fan or a Buccaneer?
Good question. Long-winded, I won't get into it. I'm actually a Dolphins fan for my own personal reasons since I was a little boy, Dan Marino.
Oh, yeah.
But my wife was always, God bless her, she when we got married 14 years ago, she became a fan of all my teams. I can't ask for anything more. Until we moved to Denver, and she said, since we've been together, she liked me post Dan Marino. We got together post Dan Marino. So she said, you like this Dolphins. We like this Dolphins team. They're horrible, and they're always horrible. Denver's an awesome town. Denver's a Broncos town, and a really cool sports town. So we moved here. She bailed on the Dolphins. Now she's Broncos.
But you kept her anyway?
I kept her anyway. Yeah, as long as she's Clippers, Ducks, all that, we're good.
But here's why I got you on the show. Because here's the problem. Everybody talks about the opioid epidemic. 50,000 Americans are dying each year in opioid epidemic. The dentists are addicted to a drug too, and it's called new patients. And it's a drug. You'll meet a guy in a town of 5,000, and he got there and he's 25. Now it's 60. He's been there 40 years, getting 30 new patients a month for 40 years. You go up to him at 65 and say, "Hey, buddy, what do you need?" He says, I need new patients. It's like, dude, you've gone through everyone in the county 3 times. How the hell? And you can't find a single dental office in America that doesn't take new patients. And then you ask every dentist, well, how are you patient focused, or are you just look in the mirror and it's all about you? Oh, I'm totally customer centric. Really?
Patient focused.
Then how come 4 out of 5 of your patients never come back? And you think you're the best dentist in the world, But 4 out of 5 of your patients don't come back. So you go get more alphabet soup titles behind your name like some real estate agent. Nobody in the world knows when you get a real estate agent card what the ABC, QXZ, or LMNOP behind her name means. And you keep getting all these credentials and all these $100,000 of equipment, and 80% of your patients never come back. And you're into this patient retention thing. And I want you to talk about, if I was going to ask you, would you rather be relying on new patients or customer retention?
My personal opinion is the biggest focal point in a practice for a dentist, for the front desk, should be on continuing care, patient retention.
Absolutely.
And where I've been, I've always tried to, in some positions, obviously, I had greater responsibility with some DSOs than others as my career progressed and I moved up. But when I was in positions of leadership, especially as it pertains to operations, that was always a focal point, always my number one focal point. And it was a challenge. And in some of the places I've worked at, it was a cultural change in getting not only dentists, but a lot of times the organization will follow the dentist and follow their mind. And what's important to them, and so they get behind that. And there's nothing wrong in that, but I've never met a dentist who can't see more new patients or who sees enough new patients. It doesn't matter if they're seeing 2 a day, 3 a day, 10 new patients a day. It's not enough. So give me more new patients. Give me more new patients. And I'll expand on this, but I'll also go back to when I said in the beginning when you asked me who are the good DSOs, who are the bad DSOs, and I said I won't say names, but I'll tell you what to ask, what to focus on. And I mentioned in terms of the payer mix and Medicaid, I mentioned grasping at straws. I think there's a lot of DSOs out there that are not necessarily focusing on the right things as what I believe are the right things. And so their whole mind shift, everything is about new patient, new patient, new patient, new patient, new patient. And at some point, new patients start to dwindle because if you're only thinking about new patients, the patient experience is probably not that great. So then they start opening up Pandora's box. How do we get more new patients? And I'll take this payer, or I'll take this Medicaid, or we'll do this, we'll open this. And it's a slippery slope. So my whole thing is new patients. Where I've worked, I've seen that generally speaking, when you open up a de novo practice, when you open up a brand new practice, you will see just organically a new patient increase for about the first 7 years. So year over year for about the first 7 years, and this is approximate, but your new patient count will increase. After about 7 years, that new patient count will start decreasing, and then sometime over the next couple of years, it'll plateau out. And it'll plateau much lower than at year 5, 6, and 7. So along that same point, along year 7, 8, if your continuing care, your patient recall retention doesn't eclipse that of your new patients, the practice is really doomed for failure long term. So new patients are great, and we definitely want to get new patients in there. You want to treat them well so they're telling their friends, family, spend time on marketing. But if you're around year 7, 8, if your recall patient base does not exceed your new patient base, that practice is in a lot of trouble. And there are a lot of private practices, there are a lot of groups out there who aren't focusing on this, and this is what they're seeing. And it's concerning. A couple of places I worked, we started focusing on that, and we would dive into individual practices or regions or states, and we would see patient retention, in the sometimes 20s, 30s, sometimes teens. But, the doctors are turning over and the doctors are upset and they're leaving, or they're not making what they used to make 3 years ago because you're not doing anything to get me new patients. You're not spending money on marketing. Well, why as an operator do I want to spend a ton of money on marketing when you're not doing anything to keep that patient in the practice? They're going out the back door faster than they're coming in the front door. So it doesn't make good business sense when I'm trying to run a good, profitable, healthy business to continue to pump money into getting you new patients when you're not doing a good job to keep them.
Did you ever see the numbers like by the time an American is, say, 65, or by the time the average American dies, male at 74, female 79, how many dentists they've actually seen in their lifetime?
I haven't seen that.
I mean, I'm out here in Phoenix, and this is October now. So you start to have about 400,000 snowbirds coming down from Canada, North and South Dakota, this and that. And, you ask these people, well, tell me about your dental history. And they'll start to, they can't even remember all the dentists they've been to. Yep. And then all the dentists are like, well, you know what I need? I need a new laser, and I need a chairside mill, and I need, dude, you only have a 1 in 3 treatment plan acceptance rate of a cavity. Why don't you fix? Why can't you get 2 out of 3 people to get the cavity have a filling? 4 out of 5 people don't come back. Why don't you just piss off half the patients? If your office could commit to only pissing off half your entire practice, you'd be a millionaire. So why do you think patients? What are the low hanging fruit? What do you think the top reasons are they leave and don't come back?
It's money. It's perceived value. It's you're not listening to my needs. I mean, how many offices when you go in, you fill out the paperwork or you fill it out online, and it's why are you here? Or there's a lot of practices that don't even ask why are you there. Everyone just assumes they're just there for the exam, X-rays, checkup, and then I'm just going to present to you everything that you need. When there might be a specific reason as to there. And I've worked with so many dentists in the past 12, 13 years where a patient will come in essentially telling the front desk, I'm here for this. My upper right area is killing me. And then the doctor will come in and see them. And again, this is not every doctor, but it's a lot of them will come in and see them and say, yeah, I understand your upper right's hurting you, but, down here, you really need this root canal, bridge. And that's great. And you might be able to do that if you do the upper right first. And so I think there's a lot of times when the doctor is more interested in what he or she wants to do versus what the patient wants to do. Because you're right, if every DSO or every practice, not even DSO, just practices, if they could get 50 to 60% of their patients retained in the practice, that office would kill it. That DSO would kill it. Unfortunately, you don't see a lot of that. But to your point, every dentist you talk to, and I believe they're genuine when they're saying they're about the patients, I believe that's true for the majority of them. And I believe you talk to a private practice owner or a DSO, anyone in the DSO, they would say the same thing. Unfortunately, oftentimes that just doesn't happen. If the office and the doctor but if they spent time focusing on how do we get this patient, how do we make them a patient for life? Genuinely, how do we make this patient come back? If you treated every patient like that's the only patient you're going to see today, I truly believe the practice, the DSO, the group, whatever, would kill it.
My number one retention practices, I have so many people chained up in the basement. I can't hardly fit anymore down there. But if someone said to you, and by the way, if they went to your website, the CDIgroup.com, and what I do is I know my homies are commuting an hour to work, so what I do is I retweet your last tweet. I'm so lucky. I got 20. How many I got following me? I got 21,400 homies following me. And thanks guys for following me. That really is a huge honor. Your website. If you go to @howardfriend.com, I just retweeted your @the CDI group. And I retweet it says, good value, growth opportunity needs. If your dental practice doesn't offer a discount dental plan, it should. You click that link, you go to the CDIgroup.com, and you talk about 4 reasons you should offer a discount dental plan. Is that your main instrument that you are working on at CDI Group for patient retention, or is that just one of many? Or is that your your main focus?
That's our patient. Well, inevitably, organically, our services, and we know this from private practices to Great Expressions, Heartlands, PDS, Smile Brands, so on and so forth. We know what we do is organically we grow patient base, so we will grow your patient base. Now, we don't spend, that's not our primary reason. We're not a marketing firm. We don't go out and say we're going to drive you a lot of new patients, but by having a discount plan, and if you're a DSO, a proprietary discount plan to you, it's going to organically drive new patients. It drives new patients. It dramatically increases production, and it dramatically increases retention.
Okay, so again, drive new patient, and the third one was drive retention. What was the middle one?
Increase production.
So you think a in-office discount dental plan will drive new patients, increase production, and increase retention?
I know it will. And I know that based on 11 years that we've been doing this, and the fact that in our network, in our group, we have thousands and thousands of doctors and offices working with us.
So take it away. Tell my homies how this works. And furthermore, I want to tell my homies something. It is one thing when you sell individual dentist and in-office discount dental plan, but do you know how hard it is to get the customers that he's got? I mean, you're doing this for the big boys.
Yeah.
I mean, they're totally elite. It's like you might have a political opinion that you're the smartest guy in the room, you want to share, but good luck getting on Fox News, CNN, MSNBC. I mean, what you have to go through to be a talking head on there. So I'm telling you that I called him, he didn't call me, but he's doing this for the biggest boys on the block. So listen carefully. So if they go to, and by the way, when you're doing those big accounts, you just take an individual dentist from North Dakota?
No, I mean, for the big account, like a Great Expressions, they have approximately 300 offices. So all their offices we created a plan, one plan, but it's for all their offices, and we customize it. So it could be a different fee schedule for each different state. We don't get down to the individual fee schedule and individual plan.
No, but I'm saying, if my homie's listening to you and he's just one dentist in one office, do you take accounts that small?
Yeah, we do. So we have a product and a plan for them. It's different than the custom one for the DSO. But yeah, wherever you are, we have a discount plan for you. Yeah. And at the end of the day, to your point, if we didn't do what I'm about to say we do, or what I said we do in terms of increased patient production, services rendered, retention, these guys wouldn't stay with us. They're in it to provide good quality care, but they're a for-profit business. So if we didn't do what I say we do, we would have lost them a long time ago. So what we know is that the average cash patient will come in, and the average cash patient, and we know this from all the groups, all the practices we work with across the country, and we're in about 43, 44 states. And on a quick side note, all of our plans are regulatory compliant, and that's not always the case for some of these discount plan products. But what we know is the average cash patient will come in, generally speaking, when there's an emergency. They'll spend the least adequate, they'll get the least adequate restoration to get them out of pain. So they're not spending a whole lot of money. And then generally speaking, they don't come back. So the average cash patient probably going to spend, around $500 a year, and they're going to retain in your practice less than 10%. We know that if we can get them onto a discount plan, it is discount, it's not insurance, but the patient perceives it as insurance. I now have quote unquote insurance. That's what they're thinking, and they're going to use it as such. So when you don't have medical insurance, you probably don't go to the doctor. When you have medical insurance, you probably get a checkup every once in a while. You probably get a physical every once in a while. When something's bothering you, you're probably more apt to go use it, as opposed to if something's bothering you, you don't have medical insurance, you're just going to wait and hope that it goes away. So from a mental standpoint, a psychological standpoint, it works the same way. We know that once we get that cash patient onto a discount plan, their services rendered will increase anywhere from on average 2 to 3 times, and then their patient retention will increase anywhere from 5 to 10 times that than if they stayed as just a cash patient. And I don't care if it's an individual private dentist or if it's a large group. You're going to have listeners thinking the same thing. Well, why would I discount my patients when they're paying UCR? Well, what I would say to that is, having been doing this as a company for over a decade, having groups, as you said, the big boys all the way down to a woman who owns her own practice in a rural area, most dentists don't get full UCR. If you're one of the very few people who are getting full UCR, kudos to you. You probably don't need our help. But the majority of dentists aren't getting UCR. So they might be giving discounts, maybe 5-10%. I've talked to a lot of dentists that'll say that, and when I say, what's your policy on cash patients, they'll say, I keep reducing it until the patient says yes. Well, there's a whole lot of other problems with that in terms of if you accept any other insurance, that can get you in hot water and trouble with the other insurance carriers because they negotiate their fees with you based on UCR. But if you are in a position where they're paying UCR, which most of them probably aren't, there's no way for you to know if they're coming back, or there's no way to say maybe they're paying UCR for one composite filling, but maybe they have a root canal, they have 3 other crowns in their mouth. Putting them on a discount plan that's regulated, where we're working to get those patients also back in your office. That's why the patient retention increases. That's why production increases, because they're going to do a lot more work that you've diagnosed.
My deal is, let's start where I think this is the most huge. Let's start with the funnel that nobody talks about because they don't even have a measurement on it. They don't know what their conversion rate is on their website. I mean, when I was little, it was the yellow pages, or you asked someone at church, it was word of mouth referral yellow pages. Now it's a damn smartphone. And they're going in there and they're saying, dentist near me, #1 search. And then they land on your website. They don't realize that it takes about 20 people to land on the website before one converts and calls the office. And then they don't know that 3 people have to call the office before your receptionist convert 1 to come in a chair. So when you just fix 1 patient, 3 had to come in, 9 had to call, and 9 times whatever, I mean, hundreds had to land. And what I've seen is that when you land on a website, that if you have a photo, you get about 11 times bigger reaction than if it's just your name. No one knows who Howard Eugene Farran DDS is, but a picture raises your conversion. But a YouTube video converts it even higher. But what are the 2 main drives? They're afraid of the dentist and they're afraid of the cost. And when your website says, we have our own in-office dental plan, so if you're afraid of the cost, please call Robert at 480-893-1223 and let him tell you about our in-office dental plan. And I mean, that can take the conversion rate of the average office of 5% land on the website, convert to call. Add a YouTube video of the dentist for 2 minutes just so they see who the dentist is. Now we've gone from 5% to 10% conversion. Add a YouTube video of your financial arrangement office manager talking about this in-office dental insurance plan, and now you're at a 20% conversion.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the more tools you can put in your tool belt, the better. Why wouldn't you do this? So I totally agree. And on top of that, again, I keep saying it, but there's a reason why we've had success. There's a reason why people are turning to us, because it works. If we didn't increase patients, if we didn't increase production, if we didn't increase retention, we wouldn't have the partners that we have, and we wouldn't be growing. And you talk about a website, and I'll throw this out there just for what it's worth for all your, the independent dentists out there. We have our own. Your homies, for your homies. This is for me to your homies. We have our own proprietary dental exchange. So it's another avenue to help patients find them in their offices. So,
well, what is a proprietary dental exchange?
So everyone has heard of dentalplans.com. Our site is pickyourdentalplan.com.
So,
but more honestly,
pick your dental plan or plans.
Correct.
Pickyourdentalplan.com.
Correct. And the reason I throw that out there, and the reason we created this a few years ago, is because we would inevitably get the question from DSOs, what are you doing to help drive us new patients? Well, take a state like Texas, where we are partnered with Heartland, Smile Brands, Great Expressions, MB2, PDS. It's not fair. We can't say, hey, we're going to drive everyone to the PDS offices or MB2 offices. So what we did is we created essentially a site where we're driving patients through, we're spending our marketing dollars, we're driving patients through SEO to this site where then patients can compare and contrast different plans. They can find different dental offices in the area. Only people that we are working with, only our partners get to be on this site. So it doesn't cost them anything. If they're one of our partners, we automatically do that, but it's another tool to help drive patients to their offices.
And I can prove to you what a nice guy I am.
Yeah, how?
I just went to Pick Your Dental, and I'm following you and retweeted you to all my 20,000 followers, and you're not even following me.
What do you know?
My God, Ryan, we got to cancel this show right now. We're gonna erase the tape. I am so heartbroken. But yeah, so if you're driving at pickyourdental.com. So this is Dentistry Uncensored. Obviously, this is a free service. You run a charity, right?
Yeah, great. We do this because we love dentists. We philanthropic heart.
Just
Now,
like when you watch the evening news, they're only there because they're so concerned about you. They want to inform you so bad.
me.
They're not selling commercials. They're
No,
not publicly
Fox,
traded
CNN.
media companies selling commercials, knowing that unless they just freaking piss you off and make you crazy, you're not going to stay tuned and listen to their commercials. So, what does this cost?
So we make our money through enrollment. So, for instance, if you don't have a plan today, if you do not offer patients a discount plan, and you're just wheeling and dealing and hope that they say yes, but to your point earlier, they don't have these tools to know if it's working or not, if patients are coming back, you truly have nothing to lose. Because if you didn't have a plan, you're not coming out of pocket to pay us anything. We make our money through enrollment. So we provide the patient fulfillment. We provide all these services. We have a call center. But if you offer a discount plan that, again, wherever state you are, it's regulatory compliant, so you're not at risk. We take that risk on us, even in the state of California where we have a Knox-Keene license. We make our money through enrollment. All the increase in production, all the increase in services rendered and retention, we don't take a percentage of that. We only make our money through the enrollment fee.
And what is that? What is the enrollment fee? I mean, how much is that?
It's generally speaking, from a DSO to the private practice one, it can range anywhere from about, on average, approximately $60 per individual up to, we have a plan that's $190 per family. For an individual private practice, I want to say it's around $79, $80 per individual, maybe around $100 for a couple. And
so let's say it's $100 a month for a family, whatever.
Not a month, one time.
Oh, one time.
One time.
Oh, okay. So explain this again. This is going a little over my head. So you make your money off the enrollment. So you get the enrollment fee in the plan.
Yes. Patient comes into your office. They're a cash patient. They need treatment. They can't afford the treatment you're providing. So you offer them a discount plan that we administer. They pay, let's say, $100 or $129 to get their whole family on it to have a discount plan for the year. That exam, x-rays, preventive diagnostics, so on and so forth. So it's a one-time fee for the year. That's how we make our money. Then they come back. They come back to see you in 3 months, 4 months, 6 months. They do more work. All that production, that's yours. We don't touch that. We make our money through that one-time enrollment fee.
And is that only good for 1 year? So in 12 months, you got to ding them again for $129?
Correct.
Well, wouldn't it be an easier plan to make it $129, just ding them per month? Or $129 to join the plan, and then the next year's $10 a month. Like I'm thinking like Spotify or Netflix. Like when I get my American Express bill, I get dinged every month for Netflix, Spotify. What's the other one? The music, Pandora. But these monthly reoccurring credit card renewal deals is why you have gyms all over America, because the average person joins a gym goes 8 months. But they get to ding their credit card for 40 months before Mr. Unorganized is smart enough. I basically pay for Pandora and Spotify every month for years, and I don't even know how to listen to Spotify. Sure. Some friend told me all about it. So when he was on my iPhone, he signed me up for it. And then another friend signed me up for Spotify and Pandora. I've never listened to either one.
Sure.
But for the last 5 years, they've gotten $5 from Dr. Dumbass. And so I have heard that, if you get them to a monthly credit card ding, that's the golden business model, because even if they stop coming to your office, they'll still pay it for 4 years.
Yeah, and you're not incorrect. We have done that in the past, but if I'm being totally honest, at the end of the day, patients don't really like that. So we don't do it. So we do it for 1 year because we're an extension of you, whether you're a DSO or whether you're a private practice, and we never want to compromise that relationship between the office, the doctor, and the patient. So patients don't like that. So we would rather get them to just renew on their own. So we don't do the auto renewal. And on a monthly basis, we used to have it so patients would pay on a monthly basis even for the year. And when we stopped doing it for 2 reasons. One, we didn't see that a patient paying $100 one time up front for the year, or a patient paying $8 per month or $8.25 per month for 12 months. there was no drop off, and if a patient was going to pay $100, they could do it. There was no drop off in enrollment. And then second, from an administrative standpoint, it's just a bigger pain in the butt. But in terms of the renewal, we offer for our DSO partners, we offer a little bit more services than the independent dentists in terms of what we will do for them in retention. But we call a patient for our DSO partners. We call, email, and snail mail every patient before the end of the year to ensure that they come back to the office. So we would rather be proactive and get them to want to come back versus ding them and make them upset. And our patient retention numbers are higher than some other groups out there that might do auto renewal.
No, that's cool. I mean, it does piss me off that I'm too unorganized to get off Spotify and Pandora. Again, I want to talk about that funnel real quick. So 20 people have to land on your site before you convert one to call. And I've never met a dentist on planet Earth who can tell me their conversion. They don't even track it. If you don't measure it, you can't manage it. So then we know 3 people have to call before your receptionist converts one to come in. Again, how do you get, I know for a fact that 1 out of 3 Americans will never come in. So you can't get 3 out of 3. Just like I have patients that come in wheelchairs with oxygen tubes in their nose, dying of emphysema, and they're smoking before they're outside my door. I mean, people are crazy. I mean, all humans are wild, savage sapiens with clothes on. So 1 out of 3 people is never going to follow any doctor's advice on earth, whether it be to just, whatever. They're crazy. But 1 in 3 is average, and in your zip code, there's a dentist doing 2 out of 3 getting to come in. But why can't they come in? Because you don't have enough chairs. The doctor gets 35% of the cost, the staff get 25, the lab's 10, supply 6, facilities 5, advertising 3, operatories don't even show up on your EBITDA, on your P&L. And what is the receptionist doing? She's looking for a chair. The dentists who have an emergency room chair, 1 or 2, that no one's ever scheduled in, so that the receptionist can always close the call saying, well, you want to come on down right now? And, so get that conversion. So when they do come in, I'm talking about a cavity on a bite wing x-ray and 100 million insurance claims. For every 100 you diagnose, you only do 38. And again, that's 1 in 3. You can get that to 2 in 3. And in my office, one of the reasons we can get that to 2 out of 3 is because they say, you know what, that's just so expensive, I don't think I can do it. And we'll say, well, you know what? We do have an in-office dental discount plan. And if you sign up for this or whatever, instead of it costing this much, it only costs this much. Well, that's a closer on all the big cases. Every time, obviously, if it's $500 or $900 or less, I'm in Phoenix, Arizona. You know what I mean? Phoenix is a nice town, and I'm in Phoenix. I'm not in Scottsdale, Paradise Valley, and none of that stuff. I'm in Phoenix. It's a nice town, and a shitload nicer than Denver or Tampa or that Orange County thing you lived in. A nice town. But, man, when you're talking about big treatment plans, these discount plans, the conversion rate, I'll talk to my front desk people, Don and Robert, and they just say, man, it is they call it the closer. Yeah. And now you're listening to me out there, and you don't do this, and you need to do it.
Well, and I appreciate that, because everything you're saying is right. And it's not that we're giving these arbitrary, anyone can, if your UCR for a crown, let's say, is $1,800, it's not like we're saying, hey, do this crown for $400. We've been doing this a long time, so we have a pretty good feel for what is the dentist going to be happy with, at the same time balancing that with what does the patient feel that they're going to open up their wallet and give you a check or a credit card or whatever, because they feel like they're getting the value. So we walk that balance. But for the DSOs, again, we'll customize it to their specific offices, their provider mix, their whatever, their socioeconomic demographic. For the independent private practice, you're really probably taught, there's a pretty steep cut on preventive and diagnostic, but that's not where you're making a ton of your money anyway. Where you're making your money is on major restorative, and you're probably talking, 15, 20% off UCR. But it's enough that the patient will feel like there's perceived value, they'll spend the money, and it's better for you, it's a good fee for you, the dentist, and it sure is a heck of a lot better than the patient saying, no, I can't afford this, and then leaving.
Again, the dental industry tries to convince everybody that what patients want is a same-day crown or a laser or all this stuff like that. But being a wet glove dentist for 30 years, and I know you don't believe I practiced for 30 years because I know you're all looking at me saying, dude, you don't even look like you're 30. You look like
Not
you're
even.
21.
I was thinking,
And I'm telling you, there's only two things they want. They're afraid of getting a shot, and they're afraid of getting the bill. And I'm telling these dentists, what you need to have more than anything is not a laser, a chairside milling, a CBCT, and all this garbage. You need to have an instant chairside manner. And you could go to your local comedy club. They have comedy school lessons. It's like every Monday night for 6 weeks, because a stand-up comedian, when he walks out there on stage, he's got to connect with you in a minute or he's dead. They have those, what are those, the shows where they give you a story, improv, an improv class. And you walk out there in front of people and they say, okay, buddy, you just came home from work, Kevin, and your wife is in the shower with your best friend. And then, you got to act this out immediately. So a chairside manner that makes people feel good. You're not condescending. You don't use 5,000 words of Latin and Greek. You walk in there, you're running for mayor, you're a politician, you shake their hand, you press the flesh, you make them feel good, you explain what they need in simple terms. If someone needs a root canal, they need a root canal. You don't need to talk to them for an hour and a half and show them a videotape and give them extracted teeth and models and all that. At that point, you're just weird. After you do that, now when you do give them a shot, at least once a day, one of your patients say, damn, I didn't even feel that. I mean, you got to take this shot as serious. They'll remember that you hurt them. They won't remember anything else. Do they like you? You got 20, 30 seconds to establish likability. Did you hurt them? No. But after that, what's the only other thing they're afraid of? The bill. And you have to make everything you do faster, easier, higher quality, but lower price. And again, in America, in the richest country in the world, with a $17 trillion economy out of a $71 trillion global economy, if it costs over $1,000 in the United States, 9 times out of 10, they finance it. Credit card, payments, whatever. Only 10% buy homes and cars in cash. And what do you do with those idiots? You give them a senior citizen discount. As if they need it. They don't even have the debt. Then some poor lady comes in with 3 kids, and you charge her retail, and there should be no senior citizen discounts until the United States is out of debt from paying all the Social Security and Medicare to the people who only voted in politicians who cut all the taxes. So the bottom line is, you got to make this affordable. And when you set them down and explain this plan and explain how, and the last thing I want to say about this is, I've lectured in 5 continents just this year with Ryan. I mean, I've lectured 1,000 times, and in countries like China, India, Brazil, nobody would ever think that the government or their boss should pay for their health care or their body, whatever. They treat their body like you treat a house and a car. But in 20 countries, the United States, Canada, Western Europe, Australia, New Zealand, for some reason, Americans buy their house, they buy their car, they buy their $1,000 iPhone, but when it comes to their own body, they won't become a customer unless someone else pays for it, because, I mean, it's my body. I mean, I shouldn't have to pay for my body. I'll buy a Camaro and a brand new trailer, and I just bought a new $1,000 iPhone 10X. But I mean, this is just my teeth and my body. Why should I have to be responsible or pay for that? So you can't change the people's views on this unless you just want to pick up and go to China. And like I've told these people, man, when you tell a Chinese dentist about dental insurance, their brain hurts.
I'm sure.
They're like, okay, you eat chocolate bar and drink Coca-Cola. Why should your boss or the president pay for your root canal? I know, dude. So you smoke cigarette for 40 years. Why would your boss or government pay a $100,000 bypass? And in fact, Chinese dentists tell me they think it's a perverted incentive. They say decay is because you eat Mountain Dew and Funyuns. So I don't want to subsidize your bad decisions. Just like insurance companies, car insurance companies shouldn't give discounts to people who total their car every year and get DUIs. And they're just like, no, no, no. You shouldn't cover a bypass and emphysema and dental decay because that will subsidize that behavior that led to those diseases. So all that doesn't even matter. What matters is what tribe do you live in? And if you live in the United States, Canada, Western Europe, or whatever, consumers don't buy unless they have dental insurance or medical benefits. And it makes no logic, just like almost everything you're told doesn't make logic anyway. I love it when you hear the environmentalist on YouTube and she's saving the planet because she's recycling her garbage, yet she has 6 kids.
Sure.
Dude, the biggest pollutant on earth is a child. Don't tell me you're an environmentalist and then go out and have a kid or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 or 6. If you're an environmentalist, don't have any more kids. If you're an environmentalist, cows farting costs more methane in the air than your car. So don't drive to McDonald's and eat beef and tell me you're an environmentalist. So almost everything people say is somewhere between batshit crazy and insanity. Okay?
Yeah.
That's why I have to do this podcast, because I'm the only normal person on earth, okay? But I'm telling you, if you're in America, Canada, Western Europe, Australia, New Zealand, you got to have a dental plan because they won't buy unless they have a plan. It's just the way it is. You're not going to change it unless you move to Singapore, China. You basically got to move to Asia, Africa, or South America.
Sure.
And if you're not going to move, your customer isn't going to click until they got a dental insurance plan. My last question is, I know the disease is TMD, temporomandibular disorder, but the patients only know it as TMJ. The insane endodontists keep calling it endodontic therapy when nobody knows what that means. They just know what a root canal is. Sure. Nobody knows what a dental discount plan is. Can on my website just say, yeah, we have our own in-office dental insurance plan, or is that going to get me in trouble?
That's going to get you in trouble again, because there might be some fly-by-night plans out there, but we want to eliminate the risk to you. So it's not insurance, and because from a regulatory compliance standpoint, it's not insurance. The patients are going to view it as such. It's not insurance, though. So
I know it's not insurance, but
you couldn't advertise that on your website. You could say we offer a dental plan.
That's what you say. We offer a dental plan.
Yeah.
So my final deal is, dude, move to Asia, Africa, or South America, or get an in-office dental plan.
Yes.
Yeah. And, dude, you are a legend in my mind. You're a legend in a lot of the CEOs I know who have these big DSOs. When I called you, you didn't even know who the hell I was. It was an honor for you to come on the program. It was a complete honor to podcast interview you. Thank you so much for coming on the show today and talking to my homies. Well,
I appreciate that. You've been wonderful. I followed you. You said in the beginning I went to your dental MBA in a day class a long time ago. I learned a tremendous amount. It's a pleasure. I appreciate you allowing me the time to spend with you.
All right, buddy. I hope you have a rocking hot day, and go Broncos.
That's right. Why not? Go Broncos.